You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to the line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you and your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same.
I'm not ready to end the fight. I'm not ready to back down. 'Cause I've been through hell and I don't have time to go round and round and round. It's too late to turn back now. You know I wouldn't if I could. 'Cause I'm proud as hell. I can't bring myself to do what it is you think I should.
All right, folks. Well, happy Tuesday evening. It is 11/22/16, and that is Tuesday, the Tuesday right before Thanksgiving. Now, for those of you who aren't keeping score, we actually will not have live broadcasts for myself on tomorrow night or Thursday night, and we also will not have a live Jenn and Rick show on Thursday night because, you know, family obligations, all that fun stuff. So since we won't really have a chance to do it before then, just want to take a second to wish everybody a very happy Thanksgiving. Try to keep the politics to a minimum so your family doesn't try to kill each other. Just saying. All right, so good evening, and again, this is Jenn and Rick. I'm one half of the crew, Rick. She's the other half, Jenn, and good evening, ma'am. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Just hanging in there through all the walked back campaign promises that Trump is going through right now.
Yeah, you know, here in Oklahoma, there's a baseball team called the Oklahoma City Dodgers, and they have this little clip they play every time that one of the players gets walked onto a base, and it's "Walk It Off." I'm thinking about doing a parody called "Walk It Back." I'm just saying, because it'll probably get a lot of play over the next 4 years, because it's been 2 weeks and he's already walked back to almost everything that he's ever said. And it's just amazing to me that, I mean, and it's not just him. Like, I have seen people that have had their 15 minutes of fame because they latched their self to the alt-right wagon, and now all of a sudden they're like, yeah, that alt-right stuff, yeah, I'm done with that. Those people are crazy. Dude still has alt-right author in his bio, but he's like, yeah, I'm not alt-right. Might want to change your bio before you change your story.
Right. I also do think, though, that some of these people, they really, because of whatever little circles they were running in on Twitter, I think that they really believed that most of those people that were doing some of that other, you know, the really nasty kind of racial stuff were trolls and were trying to make them look bad. And then when it comes out and they realize, oh, no, there's actually a whole faction of these people that it's actually legit. That's what they believe. And they think that they're alt-right and in solidarity with me. They freaked out. And I don't know why they didn't figure this out, 4 months ago, why it took until now and someone doing a Hail Trump in a ballroom or a restaurant.
You mean this?
Hail our people! Hail victory!
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it took that for them to realize this was a real movement. Never mind all of us that are sitting back
and so
going,
what they had
hello?
associating themselves with, they had been calling themselves alt-right and been associating with that because of their more nationalistic views and kind of the populist nationalistic views. And they really, I think they had just ignored and tried to deny that there really was such a chunk that was so racially motivated. And now they're seeing it and they're running away. I mean, it's been hilarious. I actually was cracking up watching Mike Cernovich being called a cuck all over Twitter last night, and him saying, "Well, fine, I am."
Well, I mean, yeah, but that's the whole thing. A lot of these people that were at least tertiarily involved in the alt-right, they believed a lot of the conservative media spin on it. This was a small group of people. It was irrelevant. It was just a bunch of people,
or that they were made up. They really kind of pushed that they were made up too. That these were liberals trying to make alt-right look bad. Yeah. They were trolls. They were paid. All that stuff.
Paid Russian trolls, leftist in sock accounts, whatever the case may be. But the problem is now that, and this is exactly what we talked about was going to happen if Donald Trump became president-elect, is exactly what has happened. All of these people that have been in the shadows now for so long with both parties, because let's face it, remember, there was a big crossover vote for Donald Trump. That was the one thing that we didn't really think was going to happen. There was a huge crossover vote for Trump. There were places that haven't been red in decades that went red for Trump. And whether anybody wants to admit it or not, a good portion of that crossover vote are these crazy people that were in both parties that everybody thought was long forgotten and didn't matter anymore. And now all of a sudden they're right back in the spotlight going, hey, yeah, here we are. I mean, dude, I actually saw Ann Coulter, of all people, put out a tweet today praising the American Nazi Party because they haven't killed anybody in like 60, 50 years or some crap like that. I was like, she's like, yeah, American Nazi Party hasn't killed anybody in 50 years. Al Sharpton has killed at least 9 that I know of. I'm not sure where that comparison even came from or why it matters, but yay for trying to get your peppy armband. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I didn't understand that at all. I saw some of that and some of her responses to people that were, responding to that initial tweet about, the American Nazi Party hasn't, blah, 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 blah. Why even go there? Why would you even go there? You shouldn't. It should have no, I mean, that shouldn't matter whatsoever, whether they have killed anybody or not. Nazis are Nazis. Stay away from it and certainly don't defend them. I mean, it'd be one thing if there had been some incident and they were being accused of something, of some crime or whatever, and it was false and it was false accusation. So you're saying, look, they've not hurt anybody. Look at the record here. But that's not what she did. She actually just decided to take up a defense for them when it was completely unnecessary. And that is disturbing.
It just keeps reminding me of the fact that we have all of these apparently irrational people that have access to national platforms. I mean, at this point, why does Ann Coulter still get basically carte blanche on Fox News when she's making statements like that? I don't understand that. Even as a conservative, I'm looking at this going, why is she even going to be allowed to continue to have a voice? I mean, I understand free speech, and I don't want anybody to necessarily think that I'm trying to infringe on that. But at the same time, there's a fine line between free speech and hate speech. And she's been crossing it a lot lately, as far as I'm concerned. And I don't think that's okay.
Yeah, I don't know if I would call it hate speech, but it's certainly unacceptable in a professional form. And I mean, in a personal form too, morally, ethically, but to be highlighted and to be continuously looked to for commentary in a professional realm, I think is 100% unacceptable. You just don't. I mean, and honestly, the left's guilty of it too. They host these people on MSNBC and CNN that are on the opposite side, so outrageous, and they just make such baseless claims and they say horribly nasty things. It's viewed differently, of course, because they're liberals, but on either side, I just find it really dumbs down that the network news. And I see that happen on either one of these channels, and whoever the show host is, and I lose respect. I mean, I know there's not really any, I can't lose any.
No, exactly. And I mean, and I think that's been the hardest thing for me throughout this election cycle is there were some I used to that I mean, Rush Limbaugh, not quite so much. I don't necessarily think he went full on Trump train, but he
didn't.
And still, I still turn on Hannity usually in the car because the people that are on the other local stations around here really aren't nearly as entertaining. But even him, I can only usually stomach for about 15 to 20 minutes at a time because it's been nothing but a victory lap over the last 2 weeks. And I mean, he was actually talking to someone today, and it was a country music artist, and he'd asked him, how did you feel about the election? He's like, well, I was surprised, honestly, but I'm glad it turned out the way it did. And then Hannity was like, well, what, did you doubt the Hannity effect? I'm like, wait, so there's an effect now? Really? Does it involve people trying to hold their lunch down when you talk?
No, seriously, I don't turn any of these people. I don't tune into them, religiously or anything. But I don't turn them off either. And for me, that's just part of my political junkie in me. in that, I'm always I am blocked by Laura Ingraham on Twitter for basically challenging her principles as a conservative. And, I listen to her show when it's on and I'm in the car. I listen to Hannity some, I listen to Rush some, I listen to, but I none of them am I, a devout fan of. Probably the only radio show host that if I could, I would actually devote my time to every day would be Dana Lash. But everybody else, I just, if I have a second, if I tune in, if I'm in the car, I'll certainly turn it on. It's similar to what I do on the network news on TV. I mean, if I go back and forth between the channels, I don't religiously watch any one of them. I see what's kind of going on and I go from there. So I think that's important, though. I think that's good. I think when there's a kind of a lunch hour guy here that's like a liberal libertarian, he's really socially liberal, almost like too far, so it's not libertarian, but then he's economically very libertarian. I listen to him, and he's great, and I don't agree with him on a lot of things, but it's a good perspective to hear from, and he's smart about what he's saying. I think that it's important to not just shut all of this out, particularly if we're going to have a president like Trump that we are going to be in an ideological war with and a policy war with on a regular basis, and one in which we're going to want to hold our Republican congressman accountable, to hold him accountable. I think we need to know what these people that have been supporting him, what they're saying, how they're saying it, what he's saying and how they're framing it, because it really, everyone can say, oh, it doesn't matter. He's, a blowhard or this or that. I think it does matter. I think it mattered to the American people in the election, and I think it'll continue to matter as we move forward into the Trump presidency.
No, I mean, I don't know. I mean, we're not even technically in the Trump presidency yet. So, I mean, I'm still really just trying to buckle the seatbelt and hang on and see where we go. But there have been some things that have been coming out in the news more and more lately that have gotten me more and more perplexed. We were actually sharing some of those back and forth. And I think the biggest one, and again, this wasn't an issue for me because I honestly thought that it was bad when he stood up on the debate stage on the third stage and actually quipped, if I'm president, you'll be in jail. I thought that was a terrible moment for him because it made him sound completely authoritarian. But his whole segment latched onto that. There were people that for days were all over social media, were putting together little flash mob things chanting lock her up, blah, 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 whatever the case may be. And we're all just sitting there going, oh, great, we're going to wind up with an authoritarian for president. But see, the thing about it is he actually told people that was what he was going to do if he was elected. Now, whether I like what he said or not, the simple fact of the matter is that's what he told people he was going to do. Now, he could at least somewhat walk it back and say, look, at this point, it's not going to be something that I deal with, but once I'm sworn in, we may have the Justice Department take a look at it, etc. That I could understand. But like within 5 days of him being elected, he was on 60 Minutes talking about how the Clintons were good people and he didn't want to hurt them, so he didn't really feel the need to do the special prosecutor anymore. And people keep asking about that, and even now his surrogates are saying the same thing, that at this point they're not really expecting to appoint a special prosecutor to go after Hillary Clinton. Now remember, this is the guy that ran as the law and order candidate. But apparently he's now trying to convince his followers that, hey, maybe the law doesn't apply to everybody after all because I won, and guess what? Nobody cares.
And also, I think to me, what this was annoying about to me is not only did he, obviously go back on his campaign promise to appoint a special prosecutor, which he said the day before the election. I mean, he was still saying this the week. It's not like he just said it one time in a debate. He pushed the point over and over and over. So that's already just, that's ridiculous. But then, and I thought it was stupid anyways. Like you said, it doesn't lose me. I mean, whatever. And I think they're above the law. I don't think you'll ever be able to get her. So, oh well. But then I think what was more disturbing to me about it all was the way in which he said, we just need to move on. We don't need to worry about that. The Clintons are good people. She's a good person. What? No, she's not. Number one. And number two, that's the opposite of everything you've said your entire campaign. It is what you have fed the hungry wolves of masses of your base that have just, eaten it up like crazy following you, cheering for you, creating this populist movement for you to win the presidency. And so much of it was based on the fact that Hillary Clinton is a terrible person and a terrible candidate. And now you're saying, that they're good people. Yeah, well, we know you were friends with them. We know you invited them to your wedding. So what is this really? What is the underlying thing here? Are y'all back to being friends? Did you ever stop? Is this another one of those long cons that everyone's kind of speculated on? I mean, that was the part that I thought that's a step too far to say they're good people. Well, you just spent the entire campaign laying out all the ways in which she lied and broken the law and jeopardized, her employees and her coworkers and our national security. So she can't be good people if she's doing all that purposely.
No, exactly. And it goes back to something that I've been saying all along. I submit they've been friends this entire time. I still secretly kind of think in the back of my mind that this wasn't necessarily supposed to go the way that it did, and I think that's one of the reasons why he's backing off on the prosecution. Now, I also have another explanation as to why he's backing off on the prosecution, because you'll notice a lot of what started coming to light around this email issue and everything else was all of the underhanded dealings of the Clinton Foundation. Now, what is going on right about the same time that Donald Trump is suddenly starting to walk back the prosecution of Hillary Clinton is we're hearing about all the not-so-savory things that his own foundations have been up to, and I think he's realizing the spotlight that he's shining right back on himself, because let's face it, a lot of folks that have access to these type of foundations, they're nothing but glorified slush funds. And that's what we're now learning on both sides, is they both have used it as just that. Basically ways to feed money back into people that we're going to owe them favors later, feed money back into their own businesses so that they could actually keep them afloat, etc. And those things have been going on inside both of those foundations. And I think that's one reason why Donald Trump is suddenly trying to turn off the spotlight from the Hillary Clinton situation, because he realizes that if he keeps shining a light there, people are going to start looking at his foundations, and they're already finding things that don't make sense inside his foundations. Not to mention the fact that the only way that Donald Trump can actually be president of the United States and not be completely ensconced in conflict of interest is to divest himself of all of his business practices, and the only way to do that is with a blind trust, not letting his children run the companies, which he's been talking about doing for weeks now. He actually has to divest himself of it completely while he's in office and put someone else who is a complete and total third party in control of all of his operations, which I don't think he's going to do. So he's actually opening himself up to all kinds of issues if he doesn't. And I think that's another reason why he's trying to walk back all of these crooked Hillary complaints and all of the shady things that she may or may not have done, because now he's got a glaring spotlight on everything that he's been doing. And it's if he's not careful, it's all going to blow up in his face. Not to mention the fact that, like I said, they've been friends for decades. They're probably still friends now. And I still think in some ways that he's trying to make all this go away, because I still don't really think he ever planned on being president. I think he was only there to try to make sure that she got there, and it didn't work.
I completely agree. I also think that, I think some of this flies a little under the radar. His base doesn't want to talk about it. The conservative media that pushed him, and I'll use big air quotes around conservative on that pushed him, don't want to talk about it. But I think, also he is a salesman. He's a businessman, and he does these things for this and that, and he knows how to close a deal. Well, he closed the deal on becoming president of the United States with no intention of actually keeping all of the little handshakes and, little winks and nods he made along the way in order to get to that position. So it's just not even surprising at all to me. I know a bunch of us have said it for a long time, but if you just even look at, what he does and what he's good at, he's a wheeler and dealer. He makes the deals. He's a salesman. He's kind of a marketing type guy in the way that he markets himself, and he has to have things look a certain way, and it's all about the spectacle. And he is a reality TV star who loved to depend his life on the TV ratings and how good they were for his show. So just like other politicians, I think this is even overboard. Politicians going to politician, and they're going to make promises they can't keep. It's a whole nother issue when you make them just to make them, just to get something, and you not only don't keep them, but you really just brush them off and say, oh, whatever, like it's fine now, and completely change your mind on it. I mean, that's what he's done essentially in a bunch of these things, is he's completely changed his mind. It's just that not that he decided not to fight for it. It's that he completely goes the opposite direction. No, I'm not going to appoint a special prosecutor. Oh, you know what? Global warming was a hoax. Now it's there's some connectivity to human activity. The Electoral College was terrible. Oh, I won, so it's okay. But actually, I just came out today and said the Electoral College isn't so great, and we should have the popular vote win anyways, and I'd still win if we went back to that. He just completely changes it and says, whatever, hogwash what I said before, and this is what I'm saying now. So it even goes further than a normal politician does, where I think a lot of times they say things to appeal to a certain base, or maybe because it's a wishful thinking type thing of enacting some sort of policy or fighting for some sort of bill. And it's not really a whole thing where like, oh, I'm just going to say that and I will never do it again, and I'll completely go the opposite direction with it. This is kind of unreal what he's doing. But again, not really that unexpected. A bunch of us were screaming from the rooftops that he would do this.
So, it's interesting that you bring that up, because I actually, on last night's America Off the Rails, I played a full clip of, Obama's been doing these internet-based fireside chat things now for a while. That's been going on for a while through the radio. A lot of Obama specifically. I don't remember if Bush ever did them, but I know Obama's used the whole fireside chat thing pretty regularly. Trump has actually put one out, and it runs for about 2.5 minutes. I'm not going to play the whole thing. I'm just going to play the beginning, because I want to see if you have the same reaction to some of the things that he opened with as I did, because, well, I'm not going to give it away till you listen. Hang on.
Today, I would like to provide the American people with an update on the White House transition and our policy plans for the first 100 days. Our transition team is working very smoothly, efficiently, and effectively. Truly great and talented men and women, patriots indeed, are being brought in, and many will soon be a part of our government, helping us to make America great again. My agenda will be based on a simple core principle: putting America first. Whether it's producing steel, building cars, or curing disease, I want the next generation of production and innovation to happen right here on our great homeland, America, creating wealth and jobs for American workers. As part of this plan, I've asked my transition team to develop a list of executive actions we can take on day one to restore our laws and bring back our jobs. It's about time.
All right, so I'm going to stop it right there, because like I said, I wasn't planning on playing the whole thing. Didn't it?
Holy crap.
Yeah. Was I the only one that caught that and went, what the hell did he just say?
What? Putting together a list of executive actions to take on day one?
So, for those of you not following along at home,
creepy.
another way to look at the term executive actions is executive orders. Anybody remember when Obama started screaming, I have a pen and a phone and I know how to use them? That's basically what Trump just did. Does anybody remember when I kept calling Trump white chocolate Obama? Huh? Anybody remember when I kept calling Trump white chocolate Obama? Nobody wanted to listen? What did he just say? Executive actions, a whole list of them. He started talking about how he was supposed to be the Constitution guy. Anybody remember when he actually said that? I'm the guy that the generals, and I'm smarter than Cruz, and Cruz is a moron, and yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. Well, he just took a page right out of Obama's playbook and shoved it up your rear end sideways. I hope you're ready for it.
Wow, the way in which he said that, wow.
Just completely nonchalantly.
My transition team to put together a list of executive actions to take on day one. Actions, not like here's this one particular one I want to do to undo something Obama. Actions, all these actions, so that we can do things that I've been talking about and that I want to do. And also, by the way, even just in that beginning, when he was talking about American workers and putting America first and getting America back to work and keeping things in this country, he didn't mention that would happen because of tax incentives or deregulation or anything like that would make this a welcoming environment to those companies or that would entice job creation. He said it in a way that was like, me, the president, the government, we will be dealing with manufacturing and steel production production and yada, yada, yada. I mean, it sounded like my administration is going to be the solution because I'm going to make it happen, as opposed to I'm going to let capitalism work. I'm going to cut back regulations that have hindered these and sometimes crippled these industries from being able to produce more and create more jobs. And all of it.
So, in other words, what you're saying is he took a very long 60-second span to say something that he said 1,000,000 times on the campaign trail. I'm the only person that can fix this.
Yep. I alone can solve.
All right, so we have got to take a really quick break. When we come back, we've got some more of the Obama walk back, or Obama. See, now I'm doing it to myself. More of the Trump walk back, and then we also have an interesting story in the entertainment side of things when we come back as well. This is Jenn and Rick. I am Rick Robinson. She is Jen. We'll be right back here in just a couple minutes.
Defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to the line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
Same.
I'm not ready to end the fight. I'm not ready to back down. 'Cause I've been through hell and I don't have time to go round and round and round. It's too late to turn back now. You know I wouldn't if I could. 'Cause I'm proud as hell. I can't bring myself to do what it is you think I should.
All right, folks, welcome back. This is Jenn and Rick. I'm one half of the crew, Rick. She's the other half, Jen, and we have been talking the Trump walk back, and I almost said Obama again. So, I mean, it just honestly, so far the parallels are astounding to me, and we've been talking about those now for a couple of weeks, even though I've still been really doing everything that I can to give him the benefit of the doubt. The first warning signal for me was the fact that, you know, everybody remember when Barack Obama created Valerie Jarrett's made-up position, and the right was like, oh my God, he doesn't really even have the authority to do that. He's making up cabinet positions. And a conservative would not only never make those things up, they wouldn't use them. And now all of a sudden Trump is considering, I guess, appointing Bannon as a counterbalance to Reince Priebus as his chief of staff in that very same made-up position, and yet now all the right is okay with it because, you know, Reince is an establishment scumbag, and Bannon is the hero of the campaign because he and Kelly are the reason why Trump won, or some BS like that. But, you know, that was one of the first signals to me that things were not going to go the way we thought, because he's not really changing much of anything so far. And if anything, the only thing he's changing are his positions, because as you had touched on briefly, there has now been a shift in Donald Trump's climate change stance. And apparently, you know, the guy that spent most of his campaign telling everybody climate change is a hoax, it doesn't matter, it's unimportant, whatever impact there is from humans is completely negligible, blah, blah, blah. Now, President-elect Donald Trump appears to be softening his tone on whether climate change is real and on his stated plans to scrap the recent multinational agreement to limit carbon emissions. In a wide-ranging interview on Tuesday with editors and reporters at the New York Times, Trump said he would keep an open mind about the Paris Accords, which he had repeatedly said he planned to either renegotiate or cancel if elected. Trump was also reported to have affirmed in the interview held 2 weeks after the election that human activity and global warming may be linked. I think there is some connectivity, he said. Something, it depends on how much. Huh? Something. So,
yeah.
Is that kind of like Bigley?
Yeah, it's one of his new words. I don't think, I mean, obviously this is just one more thing that's like whatever. He just said something to rile up, you know, the far right base, and he never could very intelligently speak on this subject at all, other than just like hoax. But I did like at the end of this article, it said, despite his public stance as a politician, there's evidence that Trump, the billionaire businessman, was already hedging his bets. Earlier this year, the Trump International Golf Links and Hotel in Ireland cited the threat of sea level rise in a permit application to build the nearly 2-mile-long stone wall between it and the Atlantic Ocean.
So in other words, do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah. And, you know, I mean, I do think what he said is not... The headline are a little misleading, because he does say, you know, that he thinks there may be some connectivity. He's not like just throwing it completely out the window. But and you know, most reasonable people have said that that even like disagree with all of the global warming and climate change agendas have said it's not that there is zero effect. It's just that it's not the only cause, and it's not the most powerful cause in the changing of the Earth's temperature and possible weather patterns. That in and of itself, to someone like me, is extremely arrogant to think that we have that much, that we are so important, that we have that much control over what is happening on this Earth that is designed so incredibly and intelligently. But so I do think that it's not quite as bombastic as some of the headlines are making it sound, but he's certainly doing another little backpedal.
So 2 points of order. One, you said Trump can't discuss this topic very intelligently. I submit I don't think he can discuss any topic very intelligently without somebody writing him the speech first. Second, and this is just to appease the godless ones that may be listening, you said the Earth was designed. That's not how this works. No, I'm just playing.
Well, you know what? Actually, and I got into this debate with a professor in college, and I said, whether you want to say that it was created by, you know, in a divine manner, or whether it has somehow been some great science experiment that went ridiculously well, and every coincidence that could happen, everything all fell in line just right for this Earth to be the way that it is. Either way, it's awesome and incredible, and could not have been. There's not a person alive that could plan something out this way and make everything interconnect the way that it does, to make everything work together the way that it does. So whatever you want to call it, but it's no accident, and they can try to make it an accident if they want to, and even if they deny the existence of a higher power. But this world is something to behold.
You know, it's interesting that you bring that up, because I'm starting to understand a little bit more about the quantum mechanics, about how a lot of things work. Because, you know, really, before you really start looking at it, like when you're looking at your table, you really don't think about the fact that there are things that are still moving around, and there's their own little microscopic universe inside your table with atoms moving back and forth and interacting with each other. Knowing that the way that we do, there's an argument that my Sunday school teacher brought up once when I was a kid, and it always stuck with me. The assumption that the Earth could create itself would be no different than someone taking the parts to your favorite car, putting them in your driveway, and you come back 5 million years later and the car's built itself.
It's good.
I like that. It's just always been something that's kind of stuck with me. And then the more I've started learning about science, and the more I realized that, you know, that actually is a more powerful argument than you think, when you realize that even in your car and in your table, there are these infinite universes inside these things that look inanimate, that things are still moving, and they're vibrant, and they're alive in some ways that we don't even necessarily really understand. And to think that, you know, if there's life there, because there is obviously in one form or another, because the atoms move, they interact with each other, there's particles there that interact in certain ways, to think about that and then realize that those things that are alive still can't build themselves, you know, to me that just hits home a little harder. But I kind of digress a little bit. It was just something that kind of stuck out to me from what you said earlier.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, so, you know, it's just one of those things where, you know, look, and I've said this with Bryce on the air on Finding Common Ground, the show that I do on Saturday, where I go toe-to-toe with a liberal, which most days I want to kill him by the time the show's over, but he's a good kid. The simple fact of the matter is, even though I am not a proponent of global warming, and I don't think even climate change is anywhere near what everybody thinks it is, because we've always dealt with climate change. It's called weather because, you know, it's never quite the same way twice. Each day of the week's a little different. I still think it's a good idea to be a good steward to our planet. What concerns me about the climate change folks, and the ones that are going really crazy about it, are the ones that are suddenly inventing all these machines to pull carbon dioxide back out of the atmosphere and do this and do that. Because, look, we have things that do that. They're called trees. And if we start siphoning out too much carbon dioxide from our atmosphere, the trees are going to die. We need the trees to be able to breathe because they bring in carbon dioxide and release oxygen. So without trees, we don't live. So just because we think we understand something doesn't mean we're smart enough to start messing with it, because we really don't. And all I'm saying...
That's really the thing here. This whole settled science thing drives me insane. You know, there have been throughout all the course of history, there have been times when people accepted something that was supposed to be scientific as at face value, and they accepted it as being fact and being a rule of science now, and then only to be proven wrong, whether it was 10 years later or centuries later or millennia later. So I think that it's, again, another kind of an arrogant, prideful, self-centered, human-centric type notion that we could possibly know that this, and that are settled. They're defying theories that have been, in practice and in play and been taught as just this is the law as one of the laws of science for hundreds of years that are being challenged now, and they're finding ways to put them in a different kind of play. So I just think it's naive, and I think it's bullheaded, completely bullheaded and completely egotistical to say that we absolutely know this to be true, and that's the end of the line.
No, I mean, exactly, and that's kind of been my point with it all along. Is, there are just too many things that we don't understand when it comes to science in general. Things that, and it's an interesting segue, even though I wasn't planning on going here. Things that defy the laws of physics at this point. As an example, NASA has managed to, in theory, test out what a lot of folks would call an impulse drive. Even though it defies our laws of physics as we understand them, from all testing and things that they're looking at as far as the interconnections and the way it would all work, they're actually saying that it would be a feasible design. Now, the interesting thing about that is, again, it flies in the face of everything that we understand about how physics should work when it comes to how actually motion is created, because in order for motion to be created, there has to be a thing called thrust. Basically, there's some sort of a chemical reaction that gives off a thrust that pushes the vehicles along. In this instance, there's actually what's called an impulse drive. It actually uses electromagnetism to start the process, and because of that, and because it has the ability to create thrust in a way that we don't understand, they're talking about if this actually becomes a feasible engine platform, we could be to places like Mars in 70 days. 70 days. And, right. And again, that's just a part of science that we're just now starting to understand, and it flies in the face of everything that we knew before it, and it doesn't change the fact that it's not a valid science.
Right. And I think even some people, and I know that he is kind of like a leftist boob about a lot of things, but even some people that are really well respected about a lot of stuff, like Neil deGrasse Tyson, he even says we need to constantly be questioning. We need to constantly be learning. And everything that we think we know, we need to challenge it every day, every time, over and over and over, or we cannot call ourselves curious and we cannot call ourselves scientists. And I think that's a really wise thing to say to your scientific community. And I do think he's right. He's not right on a lot of things that he tries to stick his nose in, but he's right on this. And I just think that it is impractical. I think it is asinine, actually, to not continue to move forward. I mean, hell, we just decided that Pluto wasn't a planet. How many of us grew up with Pluto being one of the planets in our solar system? How many of us built models of Pluto and the other planets in the solar system? So this is why a lot of conservatives, I think, have a hard time when they try to throw these things in our face, and they say what science is that a baby is not a baby until it can survive on its own. Well, even once it's born, it can't survive on its own. Newsflash. Climate change is climate change, and it's happening because of your damn SUV. Well, you know what? There is actually not enough evidence to back that up. It could be a combination of a lot of things that is contributing to a half a degree warmth in our, in our climate and on the globe, but there's no concrete facts about exactly what, where, when, why, and how that is all happening. It could be leftover residual from the Industrial Revolution, and that it takes that long for something like this to catch up and happen. I mean, so it's just so hard to listen to them and to trust any of this when they've got government-backed scientists pushing this for them. NASA is in the tank for whatever the government's saying. They've been threatened with funding cuts forever now. Same with international scientific communities beholden to the UN and to other international government organizations. So I'm sorry, you can sit here and try to tell me that 97% of the scientists say that this is true and that you're just a denier if you don't and you're denying truth. That's just not correct. And if they were honest about how these scientists are coming to these conclusions and how the couple thousand scientists that signed a petition and were no longer published in scientific journals were not invited to the laboratories and conferences they had been before. They were not given the grants that they were before for research and other, furthering of their individual studies on various subjects, how they were completely pretty much blackballed from the community for not buying this hook, line, and sinker and saying what the government wanted to. I mean, let's look at this, people. Open your eyes. This is really kind of absurd to even begin to think that this is just a done deal.
No, exactly. And that's one of the arguments that I keep trying to have with Bryce, because anytime I start trying to say, that the science isn't settled, he starts talking about all the NASA papers and all the fact that the U.S. government is on board with climate change through the military and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, do they really have a choice? Look where their funding comes from, Bryce. They don't have a choice, because at this point the government tells them what they have to do to be able to keep their funding. It's one of the reasons why I've been trying to tell everybody for forever, go back and look and see where these people that are putting out these papers are actually getting their funding. If it's coming from government sources, then I would start questioning their results.
Absolutely. Like we do anything, right? Doesn't the left constantly question results from the government if it comes from a Republican Congress or an investigative committee put together by Republican backing, Hillary Clinton? Any of those things, they absolutely question it. They absolutely say they're biased. They absolutely say that we need to, not take it just for what it is, and to keep questioning, keep looking. I think it's also important to say, and I kind of touched on it before, that I don't know if you realize a little bit of the similarity in the words of conservation and conservatism. In my life, growing up in Texas with fairly conservative family members, we were always taught to conserve and to be respectful of our planet, of our surroundings, and the nature that God gave us. So it has nothing to do with like, oh, screw you, planet, and screw you, nature, and screw you, deer, and whatever spotted salamander that's going to die if we possibly dig this one well and have the, it's the hysteria behind it and the way that they have painted the right. Most people that I know that are conservatives are very much in line with being conscious and conserving our environment and conserving this world to last for generations to come. They just don't want to have to be forced to pay all sorts of ridiculous taxes and have regulations, put on them that strangle their businesses and their way of life and possibly even their holdings on a property in order to meet some standard that is arbitrary and completely ridiculous. And the government is just funneling this money, and it seems to be going nowhere, doing nothing, or it is supporting things that are not even proven methods of progression along the environmental front. So, sorry, that's why they're calling it a hoax, is because the government is taxing, regulating way too much in the name of climate change, in the name of global warming, and that is what makes them deny it.
I mean, I completely agree. I mean, and again, it just goes back to this whole thing of it's become a money-making thing all its own. If you don't believe me, look at Al Gore. The guy could barely put together a successful presidential campaign, and now he has money coming out his ears, all because he latched onto the global warming idea. And let's not forget, if global warming was nearly as big of an issue as he made it out to be, we're not supposed to have any polar ice caps anymore by about a year and a half ago. And yet they're still there. And
also, if it was as important as he made it out to be, he would give up half the crap he has, and he would not just use, a private jet to fly 2 people on a whim and will anywhere he wanted to go. So if it is as dire as it's supposed to be, as him and Mr. DiCaprio tell us, then they would be forfeiting what they're doing in the name of climate change. They would be forfeiting the way that they travel and the way that they live their lives, and they are not.
No, exactly. I mean,
but they expect you rubes to. You rubes better do it, and you're going to get taxed to oblivion over it. And by the way, that new company you want to start, whole new list of EPA regulations you must abide by that are just going to cost you a pretty penny. So you may not even be able to get off your feet after all. I mean, it's absolutely hypocritical, and it's utterly ridiculous, and the American people don't respect it.
And up until 5 minutes ago, I actually hoped Donald Trump wasn't going to do something about the EPA, but I bet you he's probably not. Go figure. All right, well, believe it or not, we are just about out of time. Why don't we do what we always do at the end of every show? Why don't you remind folks where they can hang out with you when you're not on the radio hanging out with me?
Well, come hang out with me on Twitter at jhomestead, Facebook JR Homestead, and then please check out misfitpolitics.weebly.com. We're going to have some Thanksgiving edition posts up this week that should be politics, kind of light and more fun happening, including some really cool recipes for leftovers.
Awesome. And of course, I am Rick Robinson. I actually do, 4, 5? How many friggin' shows a week?
I don't know. You do 8,500 shows a week.
I don't know. I mean, honestly, it's getting bad enough that I'm losing track. America Off the Rails is live every Sunday through Thursday. Jen and Rick every Tuesday and Thursday, except for Thursday, of course, because Thanksgiving, we're not doing a show. And then Finding Common Ground will likely be a repeat this week, which normally airs on Saturday. The Robinson and Wright Show will also be a replay this week because it's a holiday and Dan's asked for time off, and I'm like, hey, I'm already going to have to record 2 shows to get ready for the weekend on Friday, so I might as well take the night off myself. All right, so this will be one of the next to last live broadcasts for us for a bit, but don't forget to check out Off the Rails on crntalk.com on Saturday and Sunday at 10 Eastern, 9 Central, 7 Pacific, and there actually will be fresh content over there. Just won't necessarily be live because my internet doesn't let me jack into their fancy system, so I can't do live over there yet because I live out in the middle of nowhere and my internet hates me. But on that note, folks, we are out. Want to thank everybody for taking the time to tune in. I don't know what has been happening with us for the last several months, but I just want to again say thanks because for the last couple of months our numbers have been crazy. Any show that we do lately that's live that involves either myself and Jen or myself and Dan or Finding Common Ground or even America Off the Rails, the numbers have been completely outstanding, and I know at this point I have nobody to thank but you guys that tune in on a regular basis. And I know I say this a lot, but if not for you, I wouldn't get to do something that I really like to do in my spare time and actually have it slowly turning into a business. So thank you very much for your time. We know there are hundreds of thousands of choices, especially in digital media, for you to listen to, and we're glad that you take time out of your day, night, evening, whenever to listen to us. This is Rick Robinson. We're out. You guys have a great night. And since I may not get a chance to say it to you again, happy Thanksgiving. And again, leave politics off the table for at least one day. I don't want to hear about any happenings with the turkey drumstick and all the other scary things that can happen when politics comes into play. We're out. Have a good night. Take care.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't put our children in the bloodstream.